From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Senate refutes claims of intentionally rejecting bills passed by House of Representatives, says it is acting in the interest of the people. Federal government pegs university admission age at 16 as JAMB sets 150 as cutoff mark for 2025-2026 school entry. ICC issues arrest warrants for Taliban leaders over alleged persecution of women and girls.
Bank of Nigeria warns a continued rise in input costs across major sectors may result in a fresh round of inflation.
And in sports, NFF board member Aisha Falode says WAFCON low-fan turnout won't deter Super Falcons from winning a record 10th title. Details in a moment.
Welcome. Tonight begins now. We begin tonight at the Upper Legislative Chamber, where lawmakers have denied allegations of routinely ignoring bills passed by the House of Representatives, while asserting the Chamber's commitment to legislative reciprocity and public interest. Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele described the claims of disregard as misleading, citing recent examples of processed bills that align with national interest. Senate President Godswill Akpabio backed this stance, emphasizing the Senate's diligence and cooperation. The response comes amid tensions with the House, which delayed consideration of a Senate bill to establish a federal orthopedic hospital in Osun State. The House cited lack of reciprocity from the Senate as the reason for the delay, sparking a debate on interchamber dynamics and legislative cooperation. The Senate maintains its priority bills that serve the national interest while navigating its constitutional role. As Nigeria grapples with the complexities of a developing nation, the country finds itself at a critical crossroads. Worsening insecurity has become a daily reality, with kidnappings, banditry, and insurgency threatening the very fabric of the society. Meanwhile, economists warn of imminent inflation, which could further erode the purchasing power of Nigerians already struggling to make ends meet. Adding to the nation's woes, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, have signaled imminent industrial action, citing unresolved grievances and demands for improved working conditions. As the nation teeters on the brink of multiple crises, questions arise about the government's ability to navigate these challenges and restore stability, even as the 2027 general elections nears. Femi Onakore is a policy analyst and economist. He joins me now to examine the state of the nation, explore the complex interplay of factors driving this crisis, and what they portend for Nigeria's future. Thank you very much for giving us your time. From worsening insecurity to imminent inflation, we now have industrial action looming from NLC and NMA. Why does it seem like government is on the back footing, especially with politics looming large ahead of the 2027 election?
I think that biggest issue we have as a country.
Go ahead, sir. I think we're having a bit of a challenge with...
Okay, so I think the biggest issue we have as a country is...
Go ahead, sir. We're listening to you. All right.
As I was saying, the issue we have is the politicization of real issues in the country. The NLC is positioning to go on strike, and that is a clear and present danger in terms of the economic development and the repositioning for investment of the country, because stability drives productivity. Hello?
Yes, we're still with you, sir. Go ahead. Okay, I think you've established your thoughts there. There's so much to unpack with the 2027 elections already front and center of conversation. Let's start with your views on the recent coalition. Many big names are vying for president already. Will these egos be the coalition's own undoing?
Well, the biggest problem I see for the coalition is that there is no shared political ideology. There are a lot of rhetorics built around helping people, built around improving the country, but unfortunately, the meat of the matter, which is the political ideology that backs up this thing, seems to be an issue that they have, and they've not been able to come up with a unified front, as it were, or unified ideology of what they are offering Nigerians beyond the rhetorics. And we need to be, as a people, we need to be suspect of such positioning. Why? Because it behoves us to hold them accountable and responsible for whatever they say or utter. So what is the antecedent of this guy? Is it just an opportunity that they're looking at to grab power from the center? What's their plan, really? If we want to criticize, we'll say, what has this current administration done poorly? And then what are you bringing in to change or improve on whatever they have done? Essentially, the battle cry has been on key policy issues of this administration, which many have felt are very, very important and were called for many, many years ago, such as the removal of fuel subsidy, the harmonization.
All right, I think network is giving us a hard time tonight. We apologize for the breaks in the conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Onakore, for speaking with us. Again, we apologize for the distortions with the audio. Following growing concerns over the health impact of sugary drinks on Nigerians, the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa has raised an alarm over the lasting effects on the well-being of citizens. This was during a media roundtable in Abuja. News Central's correspondent Bettina Uweli reports.
The roundtable was themed, "Time to increase sugary drinks tax is now." Discussions brought to the fore show ways sugary beverages contribute to the rise in non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, amongst others.
We are on the throes of a public health crisis, a ticking time bomb, driven by the excessive consumption of unhealthy diet, particularly SSBs. The sugary drinks, popularly known as soft drinks in Nigeria and their likes, are killing us slowly, turning our streets into graveyards and hospitals into crowded waiting rooms. Scientific and medical evidence, points to an explosive rise in non-communicable diseases in our country, and of course, the slump and die that we are currently witnessing.
SSB is killing us gradually. It's like someone who bought a vehicle on installment, and you pay maybe weekly or monthly. By the time you pay the last installment, the vehicle becomes yours. This is the same thing SSB is doing to us. We are dying on installments. The day you drink the last one, you just buy.
Experts are calling for a 50% increase in SSB tax, clearer food labeling, and stronger public health campaigns to educate Nigerians on better dietary choices.
What if I tell you that most soft drinks, or a lot of soft drinks that we have in Nigeria, by the time you're taking that 50 cl, you are taking way more than the recommendation. Because you have a lot that are bought at least 50 grams and we're saying 36 grams for males. So if a woman is not supposed to take more than 25 grams, that means that if she takes a bottle that has got 50 grams, she's taking twice the recommendation.
Treating beverage companies, not commonly known as big soda, they engage in high-stakes battle, to protect their profits at the cost of public health. They sponsor sporting events. They try to skew scientific research and data. They even try to manipulate tax policies to favor their interests. And, they all together work to derail the SSB tax agenda. And health advocates around the globe are beginning to recognize this threat and this trend and are now urging governments to take a stand.
A stronger SSB tax, they say, will save lives, ease the pressure on Nigeria's health system, and create an avenue for Nigerians to choose health over profits. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Bettina Nwili.
Coming up, expect more wicket claps back at Ireti Kengube following allegation of being out of touch with the FCT residents. Details after this break. Thank you for staying with us. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has assured residents of the capital of his commitment to continue to develop the capital, including its satellite communities. The minister, via a statement signed by his Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and Social Media, Lere Olainka, was reacting to allegations by the senator representing the FCT, Ireti Kengube, accusing him of being out of touch with the needs of residents of the capital. Wike says that following the commissioning of 16 projects to commemorate the second year of President Bola Tinubu's administration, more projects will be commissioned by this same time next year. To another development, the federal government has formally set 16 years as the minimum age for admission into Nigeria's tertiary institutions. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, announced this on Tuesday during the 2025 policy meeting of the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board held in Abuja. While declaring the meeting open, Alausa emphasized that the age benchmark is now official and non-negotiable. He warned that any admission carried out outside the central admissions processing system would be considered illegal. He explained that the decision was guided by the need to strike a balance between academic readiness and cognitive maturity. In the same vein, the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, JAM, has fixed 150 as the minimum cutoff mark for admission into Nigeria's universities for 2025-2026 academic session. Let's get some perspective now from Professor Yomi Fawemi. He's an education consultant and a passionate teacher. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Let's begin with a reduction of admission age from 18 to 16. And the Education Minister, as I just read, talked about this decision being guided by the need to strike a balance between academic readiness and cognitive maturity. Wasn't the former Education Minister aware of this, or what would you say has changed between then and now?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great question. Well, the question I would have wanted to ask the Minister for Education was, what problem is he trying to solve? I mean, it's always important. I mean, because we have a Minister for Health who is a scientist, a medical doctor, distinguishment at that. It's always important for you to prescribe after diagnosis. So what was the problem that we're trying to use age to solve? Who are determined that the problem we have in Nigerian universities is because people are too young to gain admission? I really don't know what problem the 16-year-olds will solve. I've had the privilege of teaching in Nigerian universities for next year will make it 3 decades when I've been teaching in Nigerian universities. I have never understood what was the difference between a 16 and a 17-year-old in my class. I have not seen 16-year-old feel more than 17-year-old or than 18-year-old. And then if we say, if the idea is, I accept that there's a need for maturity for people to gain admission, so that it makes logical sense to have that, but we should let data drive us. So what is that maturity age? Is that maturity a function of age? And if it's a function of age, is this 16 years? Is this 17 years? Is this 18 years? Because some people will argue the same maturity to say people can't vote until they are 18. But we have seen countries now that are saying, no, people should be able to vote as low as 16, as 17, as the case may be. So some of these things, they're just, for me, they're just needless intervention. That doesn't solve any problem.
But there has to be, I mean, we say, Prof, for the purpose of clarity, we know that there are some people who are as young as 17 and they are adult as can be, but the official age for you to be said to be an adult is 18. Isn't that clarification necessary, especially when you have young children being pressured unnecessarily to get to a certain mark, for them to get to university, for them to quickly graduate and start life? And one wonders, what is the hurry? So one would argue that this is not such an aberration, but a clearing of the pathway for people to understand when they should do certain things. I mean, there are exceptions to the age requirement, I understand.
So again, the question is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? As anybody, I mean, think about this, and I want us to have a global view. In Nigeria, a 12-year-old girl gets married. According to our laws in many states, it is not a crime for a 12, a 13-year-old girl, a 14-year-old girl, a 15-year-old girl to get married. We don't have, that happens in Nigeria. The Minister for Education and the Minister for Women Affairs have not come out to say this is the minimum entry for you to get married. But and you know the implication of when a girl gets married. It has implication for girl child education. It has implication for the education of our own children. We're not insisting on minimum age for marriage. We are fighting over minimum wage for admission, which is a bigger problem in the scheme of things. And that's my own concern, that we have bigger fish to fry. We are having one of the highest rates of teenage marriages, teenage pregnancies.
Yeah, but Prof, it's not quite accurate. Just for the purpose of those watching, it's not quite accurate that it is okay for a 12-year-old to get married in Nigeria. It's not legal, is it? And we needed to clarify that. I know you were just making an instance.
I mean, no. So let's talk about legality and let's talk about practice. The data shows Nigeria has one of the highest rates of child brides in the world. That data is not to be controverted. There are also states that were slow to also pass their own child right acts that describe certain things like that. Don't forget that each state had to domesticate the Child Rights Act, and in some states there was a prescription as to the age at which a child should get married. Some states were slower than others, and some states did not prescribe it. We know for a fact that we had a whole constitutional argument in the National Assembly and Senate over this question about age for girls to get married. The point I'm trying to make is that is a bigger problem for Nigeria's development than the age at which children gain admission to the university.
All right, let's move on from that. Okay.
I teach in North America, and there are many universities that don't really care the age you want to gain admission. So what's the problem we're trying to solve?
Okay, let's take another angle, because there was a lot of announcement from the press statement that we got. The Minister of Education had wanted to increase the minimum tolerable score to at least 160, but school heads were adamant that the figure shouldn't be above that. Last year it was 140 for JAM. What's your thought about this upward review, and what would be an appropriate number barring any sentiments?
Again, it's important, thanks, a very great question. It's important for us to always remember that JAM is not a qualification exam. JAM is a ranking exam. The qualification exam is NECO, the qualification exam is NAPTEC, the qualification exam is WAEC. JAM is a ranking exam. So JAM is not to show whether I can speak English or I know maths or I know geography. JAM is just supposed to rank all the candidates. Remember, if we had enough spaces in the higher institutions, we will not need to rank them. It's because we don't have enough space. So let's rank them and pick the ones higher. So the question of maximum, for me, I always ask myself, the question of minimum tolerable mark is totally not necessary because you are ranking. So, for example, and don't forget, it's a cohort exam. So this is the current cohort. I mean, if the results are so good and you say you want to pick the first 1,000, whatever that mark lands together, I think the problem with this minimum tolerable score is that we are starting from the back to the front. Okay, so every year, data shows that Nigerians don't fill the quota in our institutions. We have had years that out of over 450, 500,000 spaces, we have had years that less than 400 were filled. So there were spaces in University of Ibadan, there were spaces in UNILAG, and there were no students going in because we have already pegged the mark to say, oh, it should not be more than 140, it should not be less than 120. Why? Because it's a ranking exam. The first question we want to ask is that, how many people do we want to admit? Do we want to admit 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 1 million? If we want to admit 1 million candidates,
Prof, what I'm sensing from
the first person, 1 million person.
What I'm sensing from your submission is that these are not priority issues that the JAM and the federal government should be focusing on. But what do you think they should be doing now? I mean, last time we were talking about the quality of the exam, the issues with the automation of results and all of that. And now we're talking about some other issues about age and numbers. And you said these are no priorities. So what should be priorities for the federal government and JAM at this time?
Okay, great question. And thanks for asking. This morning, ASU was on strike. The Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities was on strike this morning. While that policy meeting was going on, they eventually called off the strike later in the day. That is where you are taking people to. They are on strike. That is a problem. That is an urgent problem, an important problem that we should focus on. Why are you talking about admission when the people that they are going to teach them are calling on strike? As at the time we are having that conversation, that's one part of it. The other part of it is a question of compliance between me and you. You know, almost every year in the recent past, there's always been waivers and conditions removed for some people. In university that you have said minimum marks they should take is 140 or 150. If you don't have enough candidates, they're going to admit people that have lesser ages. That is going to happen because they need to admit students, particularly the private universities. That's something. Are we going to ensure compliance? And after some time, wouldn't they go back to the same minister to get waivers, which has happened at least 3-4 years in the last 5 years? Again, one question we need to ask ourselves is the question of the quality of education in our tertiary institutions. It's very, very important. Think about it. 100 marks was set as a cutoff for education, colleges of education. The people going to teach our children, we have said, they should be the ones that are the lowest in this ranking. To go to a school of nursing or a nursing program, we have said it is 150 or 140. To go to a university, we have said, but to go to a college of education, it is 100. We are sending a message to a system to say the best of us are not expected to become teachers. So it is those people we are picking from that we want to go and become teachers, and we want them to produce the best people for us. So,
yeah, another aspect, as someone who went through, Prof, as someone who went through the College of Education, another challenge that people get is the delay with getting the right score with JAM. And then they still find another way to get to these colleges of education. But that does not, a failure in JAM doesn't necessarily mean that these people are not at par with, you know, the quality candidates that are required at these colleges of education. Again, to add to that, there is the question of, you know, validity, the period of validity for JAM certification. So I want you to, as quickly as you can, in a minute.
Okay, remember, JAM is a ranking exam, so there's no failure. In ranking exams, you are not failing. That's why there's no failure mark, pass mark, whatever. What you can have is a minimum tolerable score. So it's not as if those going to education are those that failed, is that those that were lesser in the ranking. And the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't help the psyche of those that become teachers if they know that society is saying that the people at the top of the pyramid should not become teachers. It doesn't help those people themselves, and it doesn't help the people who lecture in those schools when they know that among this rank, it is the ones at the bottom that they are given for us to train to become teachers. It doesn't help their psyche. I mean, there's this research that they talk about in education where teachers were encouraged and told and lied to that their students were the best. And these students were not the best, but because the teachers knew or were told that the students were the best, those students turned out to be the best. In Nigeria, we have told the College of Education that the people we are sending to you are not the best based on this ranking. How do you want those teachers to suddenly have the right mindset to train them, to train our children to become the best, for example?
I get the point you're making, Prof. I really do get the point you're making, but I had to ask that question because I know it's in the mind of a lot of persons to also ask. I wish we had more time, but we don't. Thank you for speaking with us. The Expatriate Business Awards recently celebrated the relationship between Nigeria and some foreign businesses. The partnerships between foreign and local businesses is an essential tool in enhancing Nigeria's economic future. As the world grows even more connected, despite the rise in nationalism in some quarters, these alliances are proving to be more than just commercial transactions. News Central's business correspondent, Chamun Dabing, reports.
Foreign and local businesses are not just coexisting, they're collaborating. These relationships bring in much-needed investment, cutting-edge technology, and global best practices, while leveraging the unique insights, talents, and resilience of Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Today, we are not just recognizing individual achievements. We are celebrating the spirit of entrepreneurship that transcends borders and unites us. As you well know, Lagos is Nigeria's economic hub, the largest contributor to its GDP, and the second largest city economy in Africa behind Cairo, Egypt. Without a doubt, Lagos did not reach this point by just the entrepreneurial ingenuity of its people. Lagos has benefited immensely from being accommodating and receptive to foreigners.
From agribusiness to fintech, energy to entertainment, these collaborations are unlocking new value chains and creating employment opportunities for Nigerians. Celebrating expatriates in Nigeria is not just good public relations, it's good business.
Why Teba matters? Why are we here tonight to celebrate the expatriates? We want to recognize them for their skills, and also we want to recognize them for employing Nigerians. Recognition sparks retention. When expatriate investors feel seen, they stay and they expand. Celebration breeds collaboration. Honoring foreigners besides Nigerians sends a clear message. Prosperity in this land is a joint venture. Storytelling first policy, shining a light on success stories, guides government, informs regulators, and inspires upcoming entrepreneurs, both local and foreigners.
In a rapidly evolving global economy, collaboration is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. Here in Nigeria, foreign and local businesses are forging partnerships that don't just benefit boardrooms, but indeed it uplifts entire communities. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chamun Dabing.
All things being equal, Oba Rashidi Ladoja will be crowned the 44th Olubadan of Ibadan land, pending confirmation from the Olubadan-in-Council. Although our correspondent Victor Mbadike met the absence of the 80-year-old former governor of Oyo State, his residence was indeed lively. Joining us live in the studio is News Center's correspondent who was at the residence, Victor Mbadike. Thank you very much for being here. I know it's been a busy day. Talk to us about what you saw.
Ibadan really is, I mean, clearly it's one of the ancient cities in this country. You must understand that Olubadan, I mean, getting to that level, is Republican in nature. So before you can become an Olubadan in Ibadan, you either have to come from the military line or from the civil line. But we've, exhausted that conversation already.
Yeah. What did you see on the ground?
Oh, well, first of all, we went to the Bas Palace, that's the one at Okiaremo. It was really, really silent and quiet. It's clear that somebody had just died.
Okay.
I mean, the entire vicinity, everyone was just, speaking in hushed tones, and nobody just wanted to see anything. And it looked too deserted because he's dead, he's gone, and there's nothing much there to do. Then we went down straight to his private residence, where we saw a lot of mourners, friends, associates, paying their last respect to Oba Olakule, who had just passed on. I mean, he had to wait for 43 years before he got to that throne.
But he used his life quite well. He's done a lot in that
they
time.
live long. I don't know. They live long. It's just they're just probably blessed. I mean, spending 43 years before he could get to that throne and only spending just barely 12 months in power.
I mean, he did accomplish what he wanted. So what do we expect with the installation?
The installation should be in the next 41 days, all things being equal, 41 days from now. So within 41 days, the next, the Olubadan, the Otun of Olubadan right now, that's the most senior in the civil line, which is Oba Rashidi Ladoja, during any last minute change or any political interference, will be announced as the 44th Olubadan of Ibadan. All right, so, but that would be subject to confirmation from the Olubadan-in-Council, like we rightly said, after which the governor of the state, Seyi Makinde, would approve that confirmation, and then he will be installed. All of that have to happen within 41 days or less, depending on their own discretion. And within that 41 days, the late Oba would clearly be buried before he has sent that through. So it's quite a very seamless, smooth process.
There are no controversies like we have up north with who is
normally when it comes to kingship tussle over time, and probably everywhere in Nigeria, it's usually what they call birthright, this royal priesthood thing. But Olubadan is not like that. Once it's your turn, it is just in the local, it's just your turn. Nobody's going to argue that with you. Now, when this current one come in, when he is done, the lineage goes back to the military. So they already know who is next. Okay, so it's a question of when you leave.
It's your time.
The current Olubadan is just, I think it's about 80 now, so you can imagine how long it's going to spend. So
I guess we'll be getting all the details from you in about 41 days with the ceremony and all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felice, for having me.
All right. Let's move on now. The United States has announced a major change to its visa policy for Nigeria, reducing the validity period and entry allowance for most non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visas issued to citizens. In a statement on Tuesday, the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria said most of the affected visas will now be limited to single entry with a 3-month validity period. The change takes immediate effect, but the embassy said visas issued before July 8 will remain valid under their original terms. It noted that the revision is part of its global visa reciprocity process, where its visa policies are aligned with how its own citizens are treated by other countries. President Emmanuel Macron on Monday told Parliament the UK and France have a duty to tackle illegal migration with humanity, solidarity and firmness. Speaking on the first day of his state visit, he says they cannot allow their country's rules for taking in people to be flouted and criminal networks to cynically exploit the hopes of so many individuals. Macron and Prime Minister Keir Starmer will hold meetings from Wednesday aimed at tackling small boats crossing the channel. Downing Street says it expects good process good progress, I beg your pardon, during the 3-day visit. And to one of our headline stories, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for 2 of the Taliban's top leaders, accusing them of persecuting women and girls in Afghanistan. The Hague-based court said there were reasonable grounds to believe Supreme Leader Haibatullah Akhundzada and Chief Justice Abdul Hakim Haqqani had committed a crime against humanity in their treatment of women and girls since seizing power in 2021. In that time, they have implemented a series of restrictions, including on girls over 12 accessing education and barring women from many jobs. In response, the Taliban said it does not recognize the ICC, calling the warrant a clear act of hostility and an insult to the beliefs of Muslims around the world. Tonight returns with business, sports and entertainment. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It's now time for business, and my colleague Lekon is here with the updates. Lekon, good evening.
Good evening to you. Well, I'll be sharing the details with you. It's about businesses that are really not making profit right now because they're spending more on acquiring raw materials and operations. I'll tell you more in a bit. The Central Bank of Nigeria has raised alarms over rising input costs across key sectors, warning this could trigger renewed consumer price inflation. The June 2025 Purchasing Managers Index report revealed that input price indices for industry, services and agriculture outpaced output prices, pressuring businesses to absorb costs. While firms have managed to so far, the CBN cautioned this is unsustainable and may squeeze profit margins, potentially leading to higher consumer prices. Agriculture showed the largest cost absorption gap. Despite this, all sectors expanded, with the composite PMI at 52.3, marking 6 months of growth. And I'll tell you that Ghana President John Dramani Mahama on Tuesday inaugurated the country's first national task force to tackle illegal gold trading, aiming to recover billions lost to smuggling. Backed by police and military personnel, the initiative follows the creation of Gold Board, a new gold board that centralized trading and boosted official exports to about $5 billion in the first 5 months of 2025. To encourage public cooperation, informants will receive 10% of the seized gold's value. Ghana also plans to nationwide ensure that gold traceability system and refined gold exports by 2026 is enhanced in order to achieve revenue growth and quality assurance. Looking at stock market now, the Nigerian exchange sustained its upward trajectory yet again, even as the all-share index rose 0.30% to close at 121,653.63 points, reflecting continued bullish momentum. Market capitalization also increased 76.75 trillion naira, supported by gains across key sectors. When I look at sectoral performance, well, the banking industry sector extended its rebound, advancing 1.14% amid increased demand for Tier 1 stocks. The insurance sector recorded the strongest performance of the day with a 2.54% gain, driven by bargain hunting and improved investor confidence. On the flip side, the oil and gas sector dropped by about 0.22%, marking a mild pullback from recent gains. Consumer index rose 0.63%, buoyed by renewed interest in select blue chip counters. Now, the industry or the industrial goods sector was largely unchanged at 0.01%. Basically, of course, we saw the activity remain muted for that particular sector. So that's how we track the performance for the key industries on the Nigerian bourse. I am Lekon Onobanjo, and that's Business News.
Sports updates tonight is with Tunde. What do you have for us in the world of sports?
Yeah, quite a lot tonight, Felicity. The Africa Women's Cup of Nations is currently going on as well. The Super Falcons will be in action on Thursday. And if you're a big Chelsea fan, congratulations. They have qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup final. I'll be talking about all that and much more after this break. Hello and welcome to sports. Former Nigeria Women Football League chairperson Aisha Falode has downplayed concerns over how low fan turnout for the Super Falcons at the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. She emphasized that while fans add glamour to matches, the primary focus for elite teams like the Falcons should be on securing results.
With regards to the game, we are not flattered by the scoreline. We know what we set out to do. We have watched the game. We have noticed areas that we also.
Sorry about that mix-up. Well, new signing Joao Pedro bagged a brace on his debut as Chelsea secured a place in the FIFA Club World Cup final with a convincing 2-0 semi-final victory over Brazilian side Fluminense. The Blues took control early in the match with Joao Pedro opening the scoring in the 18th minute. Chelsea continued to dominate possession and doubled their lead in the 56th minute, once again through Joao Pedro, whose clinical finishing proved vital. Chelsea will now face either Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain in what promises to be a thrilling final as they chase their first Club World Cup title since their previous triumph in 2021. To track and field now, just reigning women's triple jump record holder Ruth Usoro will return to action for the first time in almost 12 months this weekend at the prestigious Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, Tennessee. Usoro is looking to secure qualification for the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo this September. She last competed at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, finishing 10th in the long jump with a best of 6.58 meters, a performance that marked the end of her season. Since then, she's kept a low profile, focusing on recovery and preparation. But with the World Championships qualification window closing on the 24th of August and the entry standard set at 6.86 meters, time is running out. Nigeria's sprint sensation Favour Philly will also compete in the women's 200 meters event alongside Africa's men's shot put record holder Chukwuebuka Enekwenchi at the same event. To tennis now, world number 1 Arina Sabalenka narrowly avoided a seismic shock as she fought back to beat veteran Laura Siegemund and claw her way to the Wimbledon semi-finals. The Belarusian, the heavy favorite for the title, had to twice come back from a breakdown in the deciding set to beat the 37-year-old German 4-6, 6-2, 6-2. Sabalenka has reached the final of the past 3 majors, and with most of her rivals falling in the first week of Wimbledon, she has an incredible chance of reaching Saturday's showpiece. She will face either 13th seed Amanda Anisimova or Russian Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova for a place in the final. And that's all on sports. It's back to you, Felicity.
You know what time it is, entertainment. Sam Dandy is here with all the details. What are we looking at?
Well, music icon Tubaba is back in the news. And for the first time in a while, it's not controversial. It's exciting news.
It's not his personal life.
It's not his personal life. We're excited about his new label, but I'll tell you all about it after this quick break.
Okay.
In entertainment, Nigerian music icon Tubaba has kicked off a bold new chapter, announcing a new management team, Agai Entertainment. The legendary artist, known for hits like African Queen, Amaka, announced a star-studded team comprises experts in music business, digital branding, entertainment law, and global strategy, all selected to modernize his brand and amplify his legacy. He says change is a necessary part of growth, Idibia said, sharing that his new crew understands his vision. Now, this new chapter comes after over 2 decades of success and marks a full spectrum evolution covering everything from upcoming music drops to creative collaborations, of course, international performances, and socially driven campaigns. As an Afro-pop pioneer with over 30 years in the business, 2Baba is positioning himself for a fresh era of cultural impact across Africa and beyond. And I must say, it's fantastic timing because Afrobeats is doing its thing right now. Young stars are taking over. I want to see 2Baba, you know, tour the world the way this stars are doing.
He's always found a way to stay in our hearts with his music. All we can do is wish him the best with this new move.
Hopefully enough personal drama, and we want to see more music, new videos, more collaborations, because his music is definitely iconic.
Yes, it is.
Let's move from that one. Sean Diddy Combs will be sentenced on October the 3rd after being convicted on 2 prostitution-related charges. He faces up to 10 years in prison for each charge after being accused of flying individuals, including sex workers, across state lines for sexual purposes. Combs was acquitted on more serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Despite requests from his lawyers for an earlier sentencing, the judge stuck with the original date. Combs, who has been in jail since his arrest last year, received a standing ovation from fellow inmates after the verdict. His lawyers are hoping for a sentence shorter than 21 to 27 months recommended by guidelines, while prosecutors argue for about 4 to 5 years due to his violent past. Now, a pre-sentence investigation will help the judge decide on his final punishment. I mean, this is over 2 months, and I can't believe this right before our eyes, you know. Diddy, who called himself Love, and the entire testimony up until this point. But I guess, you know what? We're about to get there. In October, we'll finally get a verdict.
You know, the more you talk, all I can think about is, I'm curious about the standing ovation from inmates. I'm curious about that. Any idea why that
I guess a lot of people assumed that, you know what, he was not going to get down easy on this one. People assumed it was going to be a lot stricter. But, you know, his team definitely did a fantastic job.
Yes, they did.
They did. I remember talking to someone about how it all started. I remember he was asking bail of $50 million and they declined. I thought it was going to be a stronger case, but I guess maybe he just had a better team than R. Kelly.
One thing I would say, though, is that justice system, when it's good for the people, is good. When it's not so good, it's not so good. And the trust in the justice system is neither here nor there.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and find, of course, once there are more details, and we'll definitely give you all the details. I don't know how people are feeling about it right now, but you know what? Let the law take its full course, and I think we're going to wait for that to happen. That's definitely the biggest source of entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
That's our offering tonight. But before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Senate refutes claims of intentionally rejecting bills passed by House of Representatives, says it is acting in the interest of the people. Federal government pegs university admission age at 16 as JAMB sets 150 as cutoff mark for 2025-2026 school entry. ICC issues arrest warrants for Taliban leaders over alleged persecution of women and girls. Would love to hear from you. Please share your eyewitness report with the number showing now on your screen. You can do that as well by following us on all social media platforms at News Central TV. You can catch up with the latest news by watching us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for your kind company. Have a good night.